All right, today we're looking at day 15. So we're nearing the end of this unit. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 59 and 60. So ending off this unit, then we'll review just like we've done in the past in class, take time to go over the review. But today we're looking at adding integers on a number line. So again, integers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to positive infinity and their opposites. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on to negative infinity. So those are our integers. Again, a review of that. So to the right of 0 from the origin, and then that would be positive, and then to the left would be negative. Okay. So those are sign numbers, and absolute value is the distance from the origin. So the absolute value of -2, well, we're 1, 2 places from the origin. +2, we're 1, 2 from the origin. So absolute value we use for things like distance. So for example, we don't drive, 250 miles to Denver and then say we drove -250 miles from Denver to Grand Junction. No, we say we drove 250 miles there and 250 miles back, or whatever the mileage is. So anytime we're dealing with distance, it's always positive. So you'll see these symbols, that's the absolute value symbol. That doesn't mean that we change the sign. Sometimes we do, but it's always positive. So don't think, oh, absolute value, it's the opposite. If it's negative, yeah, it becomes positive. But if it's positive, it stays positive. So absolute values are always a positive number. So absolute value, and you'll see this as a grouping symbol. You'll see it within big, long expressions. So understand what it means. It looks like parentheses, but we have bars running straight up and down that are parallel to each other. So that's our absolute value. So -2.5, absolute value is 2.5. 100 is 100 because it's already positive. 0 is 0. If we're 0 from the origin, we're on the origin. So the absolute value is 0. -1/2, absolute value is 1/2. So it's always positive. Absolute values are always positive. So if I have 3 minus 5, 3 minus 5 is -2. Absolute value of that is +2. 5 minus 3 is 2. Absolute value of that is 2. And so both of those gives us 2. That's where if you struggle with negative numbers, you can remember the opposites. Well, 3 minus 5, what is it? Well, what's 5 minus 3? Well, that's 2. So 3 minus 5 is -2. But then when it's absolute value, they both come out to be +2. Because where we'd land on the number line would be 2 from the origin. Where we'd land on the number line would be 2 from the origin. Okay, then we can use that to, again, I don't love drawing out the number line, but if it helps you right now, then please do it. So -3, we're right here at -3, and then plus +5. Again, I don't love that they use parentheses for all of these and say plus 5. I would just rather it say -3 plus 5. Again, they use the parentheses, they overuse them in my opinion, but that helps you indicate whether that number is positive or negative. And I'll show you how we can do this on the calculator. Don't put plus +5. If you put 2 plus signs in a row, you're probably going to get an error message. But anyways, we start at -3. We're adding 5, so we go 5 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That puts us on +2. -4 plus -2. So what I do in these, -4 plus -2. I don't write in the parentheses. You can if you want. If I'm rewriting it on my own paper, I don't include them. And then I try and get to where I'm just doing one operation or one piece of arithmetic between all of my numbers. So plus -2 is the same as -2. So what I do is I rewrite it even before I do this. I'll probably just automatically do this just out of habit. -4 plus -2, well, let's call it -4 minus 2. That's a little bit easier and kind of visually more appealing. So -4, 2 to the left, -4 minus 2 puts me at -6. So again, whatever works for you, if keeping it like this or even adding in your parentheses help you calculate it out, that's fine. I just think it's easier to get to where we have one sign between. So like if I have 1 plus positive 5, that almost looks more confusing if I just say, well, what's 1 plus 5? We all know that. Yeah, that's 6. But when we write it out like this, it almost looks daunting and confusing versus, what is a pretty simple calculation. So anyways, you can or cannot include the parentheses, the books, and the tests. They will. So if you don't like them, I apologize. But you can always rewrite it as your own. Example 5, a group of hikers began their trip at the desert floor 126 feet below sea level. So that'd be a negative 126 feet. They camped the night on a ridge 2,350 feet above sea level. What was the elevation gain from the start of the hike to the campsite? Okay, well, from sea level, they were 126. Okay, and then they went up to 2,350. So we could say, and we want to know the difference and how much we gain. So 2,350 minus negative 126, or again, minus a negative, negative and negative make a positive. So we get 2,350 plus 126, which would give us 2,476. Or as they show it right here, thinking about distance from sea level, which we could call kind of our origin, we're 126 feet below. So we went up the 126 feet to get us to sea level, and then another 2,350 to get us to where we are. We add those two together, 2,460, which is what we came up with. Okay, practice set we'll do in class together. And our last lesson for this unit is lesson 60, fractional parts of a number, part 1, and percents of a number, part 1, which means we'll be seeing more and more and more of this. Okay, what number is, so is, we're going to put in an equal sign for our word problem. Of means multiplication. So anytime even if it's a short word problem like this, we can make W or X or whatever we want for this unknown number equals 0.6 times 31 is how we'd write it out into our equation. Then once we have that, we can just perform 0.6 times 31 gives us 18.6. So there's our number. There's our unknown, X, Y, W, N. They always use whatever you want to call it. 3/5 of 120. So 3/5 of 120 is what number? So I'll just use X for my unknown. Okay, you can put the X over here, whatever. You can do it exactly as it was written in the word problem, but I'll just do it like this. So 3/5 times 120, well, 5 goes into 5 once, and it goes into 120, 25 times. Nope, not 25, sorry. I'm ahead of myself. 24, okay. And we could have multiplied and then divided by 5. That's fine too. 3 times 24 gives me 72. So 3/5 of 120 is 72. Let's do, this is a percentage. So what number is 25% of 88? So what number, we can call whatever is, equals 25% of, it was 88, right? Yeah, 88. Okay, well, 25%, we can convert that to a fraction, 1/4, or we could just do it as a decimal, 0.25. Since we're able to use calculators now, I would just do 0.25 times 88, which gives us 22. Okay. or you could do the fraction. That's fine. Either way, it's going to get you to the same answer. So the thing is, we don't want to do 25 times 88. That's going to make a really large number, which is obviously not what we're going for. So convert your percent to either a decimal or a fraction. And there's your answer. And again, looking at 22 being a fourth or 25% of 88, yeah, that makes sense. If you ever get a number that's really large or really small, go back and check your work. And then example 7, find the total price including tax of an $18.95 book, a 189 pen, 229 pad of paper, and a tax rate is 5%. Okay, so we would add all of these up for our subtotal. Just 23.13. Okay, so that's our subtotal, and we have a 5% sales tax, so we got to do our subtotal before tax times 5%, and 5%. You have a divide by 100, which means I'm moving 2 places to the left. So 5% is a decimal or is a fraction, but since it's money, probably easier to use decimal. We're going to call it 0.05. That equals 1.1565. We want to round it to 2 decimal places because it's money. So the 6 tells me the 5 I got to round up. So we're going to call this $1.16. Then we have to go back and add that to our original subtotal. Which is $24.29. Okay. Now again, make sure, especially the sales tax one, is it looking for the sales tax? Is it looking for how much you paid in total? Subtotal plus the tax or just the tax? So read it all the way through. We came up with $24.29. We'll do practice set problems together, and then we will get reviewing for the test. Good job.